Hour number 3 of the Green Mountain Mornings program on WKVT 100.3 FM and AM 1490. Commonsnews.org is the web address for your reader-supported, award-winning independent news and views source for Windham County. And each and every Friday, we welcome to the program by phone the deputy editor of the Commons, Randy Holhut. Good morning to you, Randy.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Joyce.
Hi, Joyce. And Joyce, a key component of our segment today, because she contributed to what I'm calling the patriotism issue of the Commons. I felt like, especially, right, I mean, we have the inauguration today following Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, the weekend that we observe all the civil rights advancements that he helped make in this country. It just seems very appropriate. You have Joyce's article on the front cover this morning covering women going down to Washington, D.C. for the Women's March tomorrow. Alongside that, you have this story covering the Resist with Words event that took place last weekend. You also have Christy Herbert and Tim Kipp contributing articles in the Voices section related to MLK and his legacy, as well as Christy Herbert and talking about why she's going to Washington, D.C. I mean, these things don't just happen by accident in the newspaper world.
Well, it's also topic A, really, in New England, as well as Brattleboro and in the world. I mean, this is a watershed moment for America, for the future of America.
Yeah, it's such a turning
and how
point.
Things are going to be from after 12 noon today.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, in these parts, in our community, in the listening area and the coverage area for the Commons, a lot of people very progressive-minded in their politics, so it feels like a complete 180-degree shift from the past 8 years. But certainly something that I feel, are ready for. I feel like a lot of people in this community are ready for this challenge. That was my takeaway, at least from like Christy Herbert's article about why she's going to D.C. or the people that Joyce spoke with. Well,
this is a case of that this past weekend. I can't recall having seen so many events in one weekend, and not just because it was a Martin Luther King weekend, but just so many activist events, from the ACLU concert at 118 Elliott to the writers thing to the MLK events at the co-op, at the library, at the Center Congregational, to this organizational meeting in Dummerston that I was at that had more than 100 people jammed into it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was that? What was that?
That was the meeting. That was the meeting planning for the logistics for going to the march on Washington.
Oh, okay.
That's where I got the pictures that went with Joyce's story.
Right on. So tell us a little bit about the tenor at that meeting. Is it despondence at this President-elect Trump?
No. I mean, the people aren't happy with why they're having to march again.
Right.
But the feeling is that of a joyous defiance that we got to march again, but we're going to be there. We're going to represent, and we're going to remind people that Vermont isn't like this. America isn't like this.
Yeah.
And that we're going to show a different face.
Yeah. And certainly, I had Maggie Cassidy on the program yesterday talking about the sister vigil that she's organized in Plenty Park at noon tomorrow for people who can't go down to D.C. or can't go up to Montpelier. So something happening right here in the community around that. And I really liked what she said, because I was talking about it in the terms of a protest. And she said, well, this isn't a protest, you said, and it's not just about Donald Trump. Obviously, he's the focal point for this, a lightning rod even, and he seems to welcome that role. But certainly when you're, and this ties into the story you had on the inside page of the Commons this week having to do with Planned Parenthood. There's a lot of things that women should be concerned about as far as their civil rights, but as well as just services that they depend on.
Yeah, that everything is being targeted. I've been reading that the Heritage Foundation is kind of writing the federal budget for the coming year.
Yep.
and their goal of cutting $10 trillion of federal spending over the next decade. But, zeroing out the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities, privatizing the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, eliminating the Civil Rights Division from the Justice Department, just any cause that you hold near and dear to your heart as a Brattleboro progressive is gone, or is targeted for elimination. That's what we have to fight against.
I was. That's what I spent the first hour of the morning program today talking about, where some of those cuts, the $10.5 trillion in cuts over the next 10 years, getting a link to that from the folks at the Women's Freedom Center and some of the domestic violence initiatives that have been funded through the Justice Department that are also on the chopping block here. When you spoke with the folks at Planned Parenthood, and certainly a positive story about Planned Parenthood getting more donations, but really when we talk about those donations, those don't necessarily make up for the federal funding.
Well, it makes up for a lot of it, because the federal spending for Planned Parenthood has been cut over the years, and as a continual target, and they're going to try and cut some more from this in this coming budget.
Right.
But it's more of the energy involved, and that even in the best of times, it feels like Planned Parenthood is always under siege.
True.
And with the way they have to operate, kind of not exactly broadcasting the fact that they have a few of their clinics do abortions.
Right.
Because the irony is, while Vermont has liberal laws regarding abortion, there aren't many places where you can get one if you need it.
Right. And Brattleboro, of course, has a Planned Parenthood clinic. Many clients of Planned Parenthood diverted to the Brattleboro clinic after that attack on the Planned Parenthood, not headquarters, but facility in New Hampshire. When you spoke to Jill Krawinski about Planned Parenthood here in New England, did she anticipate having to scale back any services in the near future because some of these cuts?
They're taking it one week at a time, pretty much. They hope to keep their services available because, as you saw from the numbers for Brattleboro, there are more than 10,000 visits to that clinic last 2 years. Well, as of 2015, the latest they had figures for.
Right.
A lot of people depend on that, especially people on Medicaid.
Yeah.
They are the Medicaid provider of OBGYN services.
Yeah, very critical service for many, many people in this community. A lot of great stories in this week's edition of The Commons. Other stories that don't have to do with the inauguration we'll cover with Randy Holhut after the Bottom of the Hour news break. You're listening to Green Mountain Mornings on WKVT. 33 degrees outside at 21 minutes before the 9 o'clock hour. Green Mountain Mornings continuing now. Chris Lenois, your host, continuing our conversation with Randy Holhut, Deputy Editor for The Commons, your reader-supported, award-winning independent news and views source for Windham County, free on stands every Wednesday, online at commonsnews.org. And Randy spoke with Mike Fair earlier this week about his story regarding the Nuclear Regulatory Commission holding their meetings on January 24th regarding the sale of Vermont Yankee from Entergy to the North Star Group. And the fact that they're now holding them here in the community seems a little bit, it was very surprising to him, even calling down there to the NRC headquarters and saying, hey, what's up? And right now they're saying we don't have any plans to come to the community. Well,
I think our reputation, of course, precedes itself. And the NRC has had many pleasant meetings and hearings in the Brattleboro area. And I think they figure it'd be a total waste of time for them to come up here and have a meeting and get the kind of response they would be likely to get. But it still seems pretty lame that they're going to be doing it in Maryland and saying, "Oh, well, you can do, you can do it on over closed circuit television and offer your testimony, or just email some stuff to us." Or
right. Call now, 1-888-da-da-da-da-da-da, indeed. And,
yes, 1-800, we don't care.
1-800, yes, or some other phrase in there. Now, there was quotes in Mike's story from Kate O'Connor, certainly feeling that it was important to have a meeting here in the community and talking about using the congressional delegation from Vermont, Senators Sanders and Leahy, as well as Congressman Peter Welch, to try and put some pressure on the NRC. I spoke with Congressman Welch on the phone yesterday, and he mentioned this conversation that he's had with Kate and talked a little bit about why he feels it's important to have some of these hearings in community. I'm going to play that audio right now for you and the listeners.
We've got to be assured in the community that this will be no compromise on safety. That's the question. And I think having a public hearing where folks get to ask their questions and where actually they are able face-to-face to talk to some of the regulators to get some reassurance about the safety. So, yes, I do support a public hearing. And the second thing is that, getting that resolved sooner rather than later, I think is a good goal for all of us to have, because we want to restore, we want to make sure that's protected and safe, and two, we want to return that property to being a useful asset for the community sooner rather than later.
Now, Congressman Welch certainly feeling that for the sake of safety, public hearings here in our community are important. I'm sure Senators Leahy and Sanders would agree. They've all been allies of the process here with the decommissioning of Vermont Yankee and doing what's best for Vermonters. The question is do they have leverage with the NRC to get something like that done? Your thoughts?
Well, the bigger question is, who's in charge at the NRC?
Well, yeah, there is that.
Because it's a legitimate question, because the incoming president hasn't appointed a lot of people for a lot of different agencies, including agencies dealing with nuclear issues.
Yeah.
And as of noontime today, who's in charge?
Right, and the Energy Department and some of those oversights about nuclear are on the chopping block. We're getting back to that story we talked about in the first segment, some of those major cuts having to come from Rick Perry's department, right, if he is getting the nomination to be the next energy secretary. Real concerns there, and you wonder, in this gray area of this hearing being on January 24th, could it slip through the cracks? And then I guess the alternate question is if we can't get a public hearing on the federal level, how this works in tandem with what the North Star Group and Energy have to do with the state. Is that enough to ensure people that this is going to be done the right way?
Well, that leads to the question is, are they going to just reflexively go back to the preemption issue that, states don't have a right to say anything about nuclear power, shut up, go away?
Yeah. Well,
and whether we're going to see a return to that.
Yeah, it's amazing what the conservatives say states' rights should have jurisdiction over until they want to have jurisdiction over something, isn't it?
Well, jurisdiction over state rights unless it affects the profitability of our corporations, and then shut up and go away. Yeah,
there you go, and that's certainly the attitude we've seen, especially with regards to the nuclear industry. Now, I was saying to Mike, I don't really see Phil Scott as somebody who is going to interject himself into this conversation in a tangibly different way than Peter Shumlin did. I don't think it's as much of a priority for him to see the decommissioning of Vermont Yankee the way it was for Governor Shumlin, but I don't see him necessarily trying to bar this process or change this process in any way. Do you?
I don't see him intervening at all. I don't see him doing anything. I think he's just going to stand on the sidelines and let the process unfold and take the stance that, we've already lost our cases in court. It's already decided, we have a limited amount of say over this. We've had our say. The plant's closing, and that's that.
So
I don't see T.J. Donovan taking as active a role as, say, Bill Sorrell did in challenging. And I don't know who the new PSB person will be for Phil Scott, whether they're going to challenge the NRC over this. So, there's just too much unknowns right now.
Yeah, the Department of Public Service, I can't remember her name right now. She's been an attorney to the Public Service Board for a while, and she's not on the board itself, but he did appoint a commissioner for the Department of Public Service, and her name is escaping me right now.
Yeah, that's escaping me too, that was appointed. But
that's different than the board anyway, and there is at least one vacancy on the board at this point. So it does raise some question marks. But what I'm hearing you say regarding Phil Scott is if the NRC says no meetings in Vermont, he'll say, okay, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I'm thinking that it's not going to. For Peter Shumlin, the VY fight was personal because it was in his backyard.
Yeah.
for anybody north of the Middlebury-Dixon line, it's still, it's down there. We don't care.
But if T.J. Donovan does have political ambitions, greater political ambitions than state's attorney general, and a lot of people think he does. I was John Walters of 7 Days, my last conversation with him. He was really talking about some of the fundraising activities that T.J. Donovan has done. This is a chance for him to really kind of get his name out there in a statewide level and across a broader population of people as well, if he does decide to do something around Vermont Yankee, don't you think?
Yeah, it's a possibility, but I don't see it, because I think I don't think VY is as much of a hot button issue as it used to be.
Yeah.
And I don't think it has, aside from the activist community on both sides, that's that big a deal to the average Vermonter anymore, because, the plant's been closed, the lights didn't go out.
Right. It's not even the biggest story coming out of Vernon, is it, right? When we're talking about
with Vrexit.
with Vrexit happening, and Mike Fair's other story on the front page of the Commons having to do with the revote in Dummerston regarding that, and certainly the idea that they got enough signatures on the petition. In fact, the number of signatures they got on the petition to have the revote outnumbered the number of signatures that declined the withdrawal of Vernon, is encouraging to get the result they want with this particular vote. And the result they want, I'm referring to the Act 46 study group as well as Vernon. It's going to be very interesting to see Mike Hebert, who is the Vernon School Board chair, kind of up there in Dummerston lobbying for his cause, isn't it?
Yeah, and Dummerston has set itself up as the town that's going to scuttle the whole consolidation thing.
Yeah, and that seems to be a role they want. But you wonder, again, does a revote like this, is it going to be the same old people who are coming out, or has it actually gotten people to pay more attention to this issue, look at the pros and cons of Act 46? Because I think really, especially when I've had conversations with people in this community on both sides of the issue, it seems to me that it's a very small group of people that are really, really concerned with this, when really we're talking about the public school system here. It's an issue that everybody should be concerned about.
Yeah, so there probably will be a bigger turnout. The last election kind of snuck up on everybody.
Yeah.
And this one is 2 weeks before town meeting.
Right. That'll certainly help as people are out there advocating for different board positions or different agenda items. February 21st is the vote. It's amazing, right? You would almost think that if Dummerston has to revote, why not all the other member towns? But I guess they'd all have to petition individually for that. Even though they all had to have a say in letting Vernon withdraw, they don't all have to have a say in letting them withdraw again.
Yes, that is correct.
And that's not even taking into account that other little sidebar in Mike's stories about the amount of positive votes need to be at least 2/3 of the no votes to overturn. And I mean, it was just such a complicated thing.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Mike explained it well on Tuesday, and we'll just let it stand there. I wanted to ask you before I let you go about two stories that Wendy wrote for the Town and Village section, because I'm not going to have Wendy on the show on Monday, but a heated discussion over the Arch Bridge in Newfane. Give us some details about that.
Well, the bridge is crumbling. We know that, and it's due to be replaced by the Agency of Transportation. But there are questions about, how traffic flow is going to be from that bridge, where the stop signs ought to be on that bridge, and what can be done to slow traffic down through Williamsville, because people tend to go kind of fast through Williamsville, and it's a safety issue. And there was an instance there where there was some conversations that probably should have got a little too heated for just a stop sign.
as things tend to do in small town governance, right? I mean, some people get really passionate about this stuff, especially if they live along the roadway where things are happening at a little bit too fast of a pace. What was the outcome? What's the final decision there, or at least the decision up till now?
Well, the decision up to now is to have the two traffic signs. So there'd be that exist now is to let that stand. They want others want stop signs at all the roads that enter into that.
Okay. And then over in Guilford, Wendy's story there about the solar panels on the side of the fire department building,
Yes.
The solar panels, and they're actually, hey, what do you know? This renewable energy thing actually pays off for towns. Give us some details on that.
Yes, that they're making so much money off of selling the power back to Green Mountain Power, that they're generating more electricity than they can use, that they can share it with the town offices and reduce their bills.
That's great news. It harkens back, was it just a year ago where there was a big flap about another solar installation in Guilford? I think it was last year around this time that people were concerned about siting of another solar facility in Guilford. Maybe this will have them get a chance to reconsider renewable energy in their community.
Yes, and just looking at the numbers worldwide, where solar is about to overtake fossil fuels as the cheapest form of energy.
Yeah,
and it's within the next decade that'll be around most of the world.
Yeah, it is a trend that is going to continue regardless of some people's best intentions to stop it. Randy, we have to stop here, but it's always a pleasure to talk to you on Fridays. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next Friday.
Okay.
All right. Once again, commonsnews.org, the online home for your reader-supported, award-winning independent news and views source for Windham County. Thanks to Randy Holhut for joining me. Back to wrap up this edition of Green Mountain Mornings right after these messages.